As a picture in some contrast, the Chinese economy continues to soar, and this year they will show off their might at the World Expo in Shanghai. London once hosted one of those more than 150 years ago. So did Paris, Chicago and San Francisco. Those were the days. Now it's Shanghai and China's turn. More than 200 nations and organizations are building futuristic pavilions to showcase their technology and their culture during this event, which will last 6 months. But the expo is not without controversy. The BBC's Chris Hogg has been following preparations in tonight's Global Business Connection.
A glimpse of the future on a former factory site in the centre of Shanghai, Britain's Expo Pavilion. More than 60,000 slender rods, each drawing the sunlight down through the walls to light up what they're calling the Seed Cathedral. Inside you see why. There are thousands of seeds encased in the rods, promoting conservation. Britain sees the Expo as a chance to share its values with the millions of Chinese who will visit once the pavilion's finished. The message here: tomorrow's cities can and should be greener. The Expo's already created thousands of jobs. Officials say it's helped Shanghai get through the economic downturn. But the impact of the project isn't just being felt here on the site, but across the city.
Shanghai is looking forward to hosting the World Expo.
Shanghai promotes the Expo as making life better here. They've built new rail lines, smartened up the streets. It's helping accelerate urban renewal.
World Expo 2000.
But not everyone's happy with that. They're pulling down the city centre neighbourhood, the residents say, to make room for an Expo car park. Lang Wei-xiao's refusing to move. He's building a barricade, but the rubble's piling up as the wreckers get closer. Mr. Lan complains officials are using the Expo as an excuse to seize his house without compensating him fairly.
Acting like tigers, they're trying to bully us ordinary people with talk of the Expo's needs. They're offering the lowest compensation in Shanghai. With that kind of money, we would never be able to buy a house.
His eviction notice says the land's needed for Expo preparations, but the authorities told us they plan to build new offices here. He says that shows he's being cheated. In China, though, nothing's allowed to get in the way of an event like this. At the main Expo site, the preparations are almost complete. Few countries have dared to refuse the invitation to take part, aware that for a newly confident China, the Expo's a showcase for just how important this country has become. Chris Hogg, BBC News, Shanghai.
On Friday, in the Chinese city of Shanghai, the opening ceremony will be held for the World Expo. More than 190 countries from around the globe are there to share cultural, economic and scientific innovations. China's leaders say the Expo is the most important event to be staged in the country this year. My colleague Michelle Hussein is there for the BBC, and she's been speaking to the man who designed the British pavilion at the Expo, Thomas Heatherwick.
I'm standing in one of the hot spots of the entire Expo site. This is a pavilion that everybody here is talking about, and it's not hard to see why. The UK pavilion is 20 metres high, coated in 60,000 acrylic optical hairs. It's quite a sight, and the man behind it all is designer Thomas Heatherwick. Thomas, what were you trying to make people think when they see this?
Well, the whole Expo is about the future of cities, and because London is actually the greenest city of its size in the world, and Kew Gardens, it was actually the world's first botanical gardens. Their extraordinary seed bank project, where they've been collecting 25% of the world's plant species, seemed something that in the UK we've never seen, and certainly hasn't been seen in China. No one has seen this incredible project. So this is a seed cathedral, and each one of these hairs that you're looking at is an optic, and at the very end of each one is a little trapped seed, like the amber in Jurassic Park, which had the DNA of the dinosaur in, but we've got 60,000 seeds, and when you're inside, you're experiencing the daylight that gets trapped and moves through these and just illuminates.
Show me inside the seed cathedral. Can we have a look inside?
Yeah, sure.
This is remarkable. So these are the ends of the inside ends of all of those hairs.
and as you can see, there are these seeds trapped in each end of these 60,000 ends, and there's these very slight differences in colour, and the slight different colours of the seeds affect that. So there's this, it sort of has turned into like a miniature stained glass somehow, but with 60,000 tiny pieces.
The whole room has this golden glow about it.
Well, we didn't know exactly how that would come out, but we wanted this very calm, reflective space with nothing more than these 60,000 seeds.
And in some cases more than 60,000 seeds, because these have got more than one in each of the acrylic hairs.
Well, we wanted you to be able to have a good look, and sometimes they're so tiny that it's worth putting more than one. Some of them actually are really beautiful as well. There's these incredible blue ones, and there's some really astonishing forms. And so it's been great to have a chance to show what no one's seen before.
You'd be heartbroken, wouldn't you, to see all of this dismantled after all your hard work?
Well, we designed this pavilion to be here for 6 months, so I won't be heartbroken. I've had my expectations managed from the beginning, but I hope that by having exposed something that no one's ever seen before, that it will live on, and I hope that maybe a few people in 10 years' time or 20 years' time will remember the Expo and remember this seed cathedral, and that maybe that triggers something.
Thomas Heatherwick, designer of the UK Pavilion, thank you. But that's one of the main questions of the Expo. What happens to all these pavilions when it's all over? So much time, money and effort has gone into many of these pavilions. It would be a shame if at least some of them can't find a permanent home.
Michelle Hussein there, enjoying the Expo in Shanghai. Lucky girl.
It's another example of China's rise as an emerging world power. Visitors from around the world are expected to attend the Shanghai EXPO, an exhibition of culture and technology that's cost an estimated $55 billion to stage. It's been described as a gala of civilizations designed for the exchange of wisdom. Well, a short while ago, I spoke to BBC's Chris Hogg and asked him about the grand opening of World Expo.
It does, and in the past, World Expos, or World Fairs as they were known then, were a way that a country really told the world that it was in charge, that it was doing very well. If you think back to 1851 at Crystal Palace in London, that was the great exhibition with which Britain really announced its technological and political superiority to the world at that time. So for China, this is something similar, if you like. Certainly when you go down and you look at the pavilions on this city centre site, you see tremendous effort that's been put in by countries from around the world. The Spanish pavilion, which is covered in wicker, the British pavilion that they're calling a seed cathedral. All that effort the Chinese see as evidence that China matters. And what they're pleased about is most of the visitors that come to this will be Chinese, and so they will see that their country matters to the rest of the world.
And the rest of the world is really getting involved. Just talk us through some more of the countries that are showing their showcases.
Well, there are 192 countries and 50 international organizations that have built these pavilions. And when you walk around this site, which is twice the size of Monaco, it's really all different kinds of anything you could imagine, really. There is Finland, which has built this gigantic bowl. Denmark, which brought the Little Mermaid from Copenhagen, the first time that iconic statue has traveled out of the country. So these pavilions, they're supposed to, if you like, celebrate each country's culture, its technology, its style even. But this is also, although some of them look like museums or exhibitions, this is also about trying to win friends and win influence. So there are also taking part over the next 6 months in these pavilions. There will be businessmen taking part, and these kind of exchanges to try to promote trade between each country and China.
The world's biggest expo gets ready for kickoff in Shanghai as China showcases its growing global and economic might. Hello and welcome. I'm Rico Hizon for the Asia Business Report on BBC World News. Glad you could join us. It's 11:30 in the morning in Osaka, Japan, 10:30 in Shanghai, where the opening ceremony of the World Expo will be taking place later this Friday. The Expo will continue for 6 months, which will be the largest world exhibition ever. and is expected to attract 70 million visitors from both the mainland and overseas. 192 countries and 50 international organizations will be taking part in this massive event. Earlier, I spoke to our Shanghai correspondent, Chris Hogg, and I asked him if the Shanghai Expo is a sign to project the mainland's growing global and economic power.
Actually, somebody from the Canadian pavilion put it rather well. They said the Beijing Olympics was a party that China threw for the world. This is a party that the world is throwing for China. When you go down to the expo site, you see these fantastic pavilions. A lot of money's been spent on them, a lot of thought, a lot of great design, amazing structures in some cases. And that really is seen as evidence that the rest of the world really wants to impress the Chinese, that China is important, and when you got an invitation to come to the expo, you couldn't turn it down.